everyone. Good morning and welcome to the Power Hour. I'm Sandra Shilson. I'm the Executive Director for the Partnership for a Healthy Mississippi. We're one of the sponsors / facilitators of this call. And just to review for everyone, we kind of migrated into the Power Hour. Formerly, for over a year, we were Community Connections. Now, we're still trying to make connections throughout our community, but we're trying to have a little bit more focus on each of the calls. But before we get to that, I just want to say happy Fat Tuesday, happy Mardi Gras. I hope everybody gets some king cake today and have a good time, throw some beads and have a little fun. So again, welcome. The new format I mentioned, we have been planning on the next calls that are coming up. And I'm very excited about some of the topics that we've got coming up in the future. We're going to talk about rural health. We're going to talk about SNAP and WIC. We'll have one call that's dedicated to the Mississippi State Extension Services and topics like that. So if you've got any topics, or if you would like to be a speaker, or if your organization would like to be a sponsor, please don't hesitate to get in touch with me. Now, one of the other things that we've been doing is recording these calls. And they are now available. All of the previous free calls have been available or have been recorded and are now available on our website. And I'm going to ask Kimara, who is with the partnership, to explain to you how you can access these calls, in the future if you want to go back and review or if you want to recommend it to someone. Kimara, would you tell everyone how they need to go about accessing the information? Remember to star 6 yourself.
Good morning. So one of the great ways that you can go back to listen to our podcast is by simply following the Power Hour podcast and logging into your mobile Facebook app, where you can then access each one of the episodes that we have already posted via our RSS feed. You will also be able to go back to our website later on today, at the end of the day, and view the RSS feed that way. And you'll also be able to view the handouts for each one of those calls and play back each call.
Thank you, Kimara. I appreciate that. All right, so we're going to talk about, what happens in an emergency, some emergency preparedness. And goodness knows, life is full of surprises, whether it is an emergency in your own home or whether it is a weather emergency. There are all kinds of ways that we need to think about what happens if there is an emergency. So we're very fortunate today to have two speakers with us. Kelly Richardson, who is the Public Information Officer with the Mississippi Emergency Management Agency, and Jim Pollard, who's the Public Affairs Manager at AMR, Central Mississippi, and that's, many of you seen that, hopefully not in front of your driveway, but AMR Central Mississippi is our state's busiest ambulance service. So we've agreed ahead of time that Kelly Richardson would be our first speaker. So Kelly, if you will star 6 yourself and make sure you're unmuted, please, the time is yours.
Awesome. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having me speak this morning. I'm excited to share a little bit about all that MEMA does. I'm going to give you an overall 30,000 look at it. It's a lot to it, a lot more than most people think. So I'm excited to dive in. A little bit about myself. My background before I joined MEMA was actually in local television. I was a broadcast meteorologist in Texas, as well as here in Jackson, Mississippi. I've been with MEMA as the Public Information Officer for about 2 years now. I joined in 2020, and my goodness, has it been a busy 2 years, that's for sure. Between COVID, severe weather, historic severe weather and flooding events, hurricanes, we have seen a little bit of everything in Mississippi the past couple of years. So it has been very busy for MEMA. Just kind of to start things off, I want to give you an overall definition and just a little gist about what we do as an agency. We refer to ourselves as the State Coordinating Agency, which is just a fancy way to say that we are the logistical arm for any sort of disaster or emergency response efforts. So our executive director, Mr. Stephen McCraney, he serves as the governor's authorized representative. And during a state of emergency, he has the ability to task other state agencies, which are known as our emergency support functions, to help in our response efforts. And these emergency support functions can stretch, there are 16 in total, but it can go from transportation. MDOT is a huge partner of ours. Also, Mass Care and Human Services, MDHS, is huge when it comes to sheltering, mass feedings during emergencies. We also have partners under that ESF, such as the Red Cross, Salvation Army, which are also imperative during our response efforts. Public health is another big one. Search and rescue. We also work with, the private sector partners when it comes to energy and the power companies and public utilities as well. And also military support. The National Guard, when a state of emergency is issued by the governor, they are then able, once that state of emergency is issued, they are then able to come in and help as need be. So these are just some of our partners, and it is really a team effort. And we are just, like I said, the logistical aspect that takes all of these different agencies and organizations and coordinates everything to make response efforts as effective as possible. During COVID, we had to deal with a few curveballs, that's for sure, stuff that we haven't dealt with in the past. And it did kind of adjust how we respond to certain things. And one of the biggest things was that we in the past have not had a central location to house supplies, PPE, that sort of thing. So thanks to some CARES Act funding in 2020, we were able to purchase our State Emergency Logistical Operations Center. A little bit of a mouthful, but we refer to it as CLOC. And it's in Byram, Mississippi. So we are headquartered in Pearl, but this CLOC facility is in Byram, and it's about 100,000 square foot warehouse space that holds a 60-day supply of emergency COVID response supply PPE items, as well as other resources that we distribute during emergency response efforts, such as bottled water, tarps. And this warehouse has been imperative since the COVID response really began in 2020 and last year as well. It has been just exceptionally important to have all of these resources in one place, because before we had this facility, we had all of these resources stretched in 8 different warehouses that we were renting across the state. It also kind of double functions as office space as well. We have our Office of Mitigation teams, our individual assistance teams that have offices out in the Byram location. So, and it also acts as a what we call a COOP site. So if any of our operations here at our headquarters in Pearl are disrupted, then we're able to continue our operations at the Byram location. So far I've talked a lot about response. And yes, that is a huge integral part of what MEMA does. So our Office of Response and our Office of Logistics are 2 key offices that play a very imperative role in what the agency does. But all in all, MEMA is more than just a response. We have the Office of Preparedness, for example, which trains and emergency managers statewide. They teach FEMA courses. They write plans such as radiological preparedness plans, hurricane plans. So if you can think of any type of emergency or disaster, I guarantee you that our preparedness team has a plan written in the books to properly deal with any situation. In addition to preparedness, there's also recovery efforts. And under our recovery, somewhat of an umbrella, we have the Office of Mitigation. And they really oversee projects that, all in all, could potentially lessen the impacts from disasters. This includes things such as safe room construction. The Rankin County Safe Room is actually a prime example of the use of mitigation funds to build structures to help mitigate and keep people safe during active weather. Also, the elevation of structures. We see this on the coast a lot. Katrina, we had our teams working directly with the counties and local officials to really create a lot of these projects to elevate surfaces and also structures to make sure that in the event that we, God forbid it doesn't happen, but we do see another hurricane of that magnitude, that these buildings can withstand the wind and the floods and everything. Another aspect of our recovery is public assistance. So our Office of Public Assistance helps in recovery efforts for local governments. It's a little bit misleading because a lot of times people hear public assistance. Well, that's for the people, but it's actually for local governments, certain nonprofits, state governments as well, to help with things such as debris clearing directly following a event, or repair or reconstruction of public infrastructure such as bridges and roads. So that's one aspect. And then the other office that helps with the people directly is our Office of Individual Assistance. And they are the ones that work directly with the residents of Mississippi, whether it be homeowners or renters following a disaster, to make sure that if there is any type of federal assistance available, that they know how to apply, can be have access to any help they may need to get themselves back on their feet after a disaster. And one of the great things that we have at MEMA, which actually only one of 4 states in the country has, that falls under the Individual Assistance Office, is a disability integration advisor. It's Miss Amber Hall. She is wonderful, and she really works with the disability community, and she is out in the field working with that community hands-on, not only after disaster, but building those relationships before, to make sure that all Mississippians are taken care of and have the resources they need to help get themselves on their feet after any sort of disaster. She works to develop and update guidelines that integrate services and resources for those with disabilities in emergency management. And she works at the local level, the state level, and has just been wonderful. And that has been a great, somewhat new addition to the agency that we have just seen help so many people. Some of the other things, the offices that we have, of course, administrative services, they pay the bills, they keep the lights on. They have also were imperative in our COVID response. Last fall, we were tasked by the governor to hire medical personnel to help fill the hospitals. And all in all, our administrative services team, they fulfilled 93% of all of those staffing requests from the hospitals, which is, and they did it, I mean, in a blink of an eye. They were working around the clock to make sure that the manpower was on the ground and in these hospitals as soon as possible. So that was something that they have been working on recently that was so important. And all in all, when it comes to human resources administrative services, we clock a lot of overtime hours at MEMA. As you can imagine, with responding to disasters and emergencies, disasters can strike at any time. And in the last year alone, we clocked over 9,500 hours of overtime, which is pretty impressive. And it's just a testament to how hard working our team is here at MEMA. And then finally, the final office is the Office of Information Technology. They deal with all of the electronic devices. Especially with COVID, we have really had to make sure that all of our operating procedures were, there was no kind of gaps in them when it comes to technology, because a lot of times we have people out in the field, or we had to, work from home. There were a lot of curveballs that have been thrown at us in the past couple of years. And our IT team works very hard to make sure that we have all of the resources needed to make sure that our operations can continue regardless of the situation. A couple of other things I wanted to mention. So that was our offices, essentially, in a nutshell. But we also have a few other programs and kind of products that we've been working on here recently that have been very exciting. And our drone program is actually one of them. Technical term, UAS, Unmanned Aerial Systems Program. It was actually established in 2017. And since then, especially since I've been here in the past couple of years, the program has just really flourished. In total, we have over 10 drones. All of our area coordinators that are stationed across the state in 9 different districts all have their own drone. And one thing that it has really come in handy having these drones and this program in place is for damage assessments following events, especially such as hurricanes, when the damage is more widespread. Having that bird's eye view and the ability to have these drones cover a large area and get that bigger picture view of all the damage has been imperative to help us speed up the damage assessment process and allow us to, if we qualify, apply for federal assistance to get people help even faster. Zeta was a prime example of using the drone program. Hurricane Ida was another example this past year. So it has been a really exceptional new use of technology that we're just embracing here at MEMA. Most recently, our team used their drones to give situational awareness for a Rankin County wildfire. They've already responded and helped respond to several wildfires so far this season. So that's just one of the many ways that we are using our drones here at MEMA to kind of integrate technology and take our response and recovery efforts to the next level. Another tool that we have started to implement, at least since I've been here at MEMA, is our crisis track damage assessment tool. It is now on our website. It's all technology, so you can have it at your fingertips. You are able to submit damage reports following any type of disaster. That includes uploading photos, typing out text describing the type of damage. And that's another tool that our IT team has really worked to build that has also taken us to the next level and really helped us move along in the damage assessment process to make sure that we can get people help as soon as possible. So I also want to finish things out by just breaking down the numbers to really give you an idea of just in the past year, all that MEMA has done. So all in all, we have responded in 2021, we responded to 24 weather events. 2 of those were major disaster declarations. And that is when the damage is unfortunately bad enough that FEMA approves the disaster declaration for federal assistance. That was approved for the winter weather event in February of 2021, as well as Hurricane Ida. And through it all, through COVID, we have not wavered. Our response efforts have remained constant. We sent out last year 715,000 bottles of water in response efforts across all these weather events and different emergencies that we saw. Our preparedness team last year alone, they taught over 100 emergency management courses to over 1,800 participants. It has just been busy nonstop the past couple of years, but we are here to serve the state of Mississippi, and I can attest that everyone that works here loves what they do, and they love the state and the residents, and they wouldn't trade the overtime hours or anything, the hard work that they put in for anything, because at the end of the day, it is so rewarding to feel like you are making a difference and helping people when they need it the most. That's kind of a overview, 30,000 feet of MEMA. I know it's a lot of information, and hopefully y'all were able to learn a little bit more about what we do other than just responding directly to events. There are so many other aspects and so many other offices that are doing great work here at the agency to make sure that we are prepared not only before, but also continuing work well after the event happens. If y'all have any questions at all, feel free to ask.
Kelly? Kelly, can you hear me? This is Sandra.
Yes,
I wanted you, since you have, this audience of community folks, what can we do to help you do your job? How can we help you let people know that these services are available? How can we, if there is unfortunately an event, how can we volunteer? Is that part of something that people at the community level could be a part of?
So MEMA has this exceptional program it's called our Disaster Reservist Program. And on our website, msema.org, under the Jobs tab, you can find the Disaster Reservist link. And what this program is it's open to anyone who wants to help and enlist to help MEMA, especially when we are activated in times of disaster, because we are looking for an array of people when things happen. Our agency, we have 150 people, give or take. Sometimes, depending on the severity of the event, we need more hands on deck. So this Disaster Reservist Program really helps us in that regard. When something does happen, we are able to pull from these applications based on your specialty. I mean, it can be anything from IT disaster reservist to a public information officer to someone with a logistical background. And once you apply on our website, then your application is on file. And during disasters, we can look through those applications. And if need be, we can pool and see who fits what we need at that time. That's really an excellent way for community members who are wanting to help really get involved in MEMA, not necessarily on a full-time, but when we are activated and do need those extra hands on deck.
If you are someone who applies for that, is there any training that is provided by MEMA to, so that all of these volunteers? Okay, great.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about what that entails.
Yes. So once our reservists are put on active duty, so once you are essentially chosen to begin fulfilling your role as a disaster reservist, our disaster reservists will become essentially contract employees for MEMA during the duration of their deployment, or mission assignment. And this is a paid position. It's part-time, but there is that training that goes on before you are chosen. And, I do not know exactly the details of what the training, but I believe it's just an overview of kind of how MEMA operates. And we have a wonderful lady who oversees the program. Her name is Stacy Purvis, and she can help anyone that is interested. All of her contact information is listed on that page, the disaster reservist page, but there will be some minimal training before you begin that active duty status, and also routinely every year or so, I believe, to just make sure you are up to date with everything MEMA protocol wise, essentially.
Yes. And Kelly, if you will provide that information to us, we will post it on our different platforms. I just want to make sure that would be awesome.
Yes, I can definitely do that.
Is there a current disaster that y'all are working on right now?
Yes, we have about over 10 open disasters. The most recent that we're still working from last year are the winter weather event as well as Ida. But Easter tornadoes, COVID, Hurricane Zeta. I mean, we go all the way back. We just recently, I believe in the last few months, closed the Hurricane Katrina disaster. So that gives you an idea. This doesn't happen overnight. This is a long process. But yes, so a lot of disasters that we are still working from many years back. But those are just a few of the recent ones that we've seen in the past couple of crazy years.
My last question is, do we, at any time when any of our sister states have emergencies, do we help rally troops to go and address those?
Absolutely. So we are part of what is known as the Emergency Management Assistance Compact. And all the states have these agreements in place to help one another during disasters. It was actually originally developed in the early 1990s after Hurricane Andrew hit Florida. And after that, there was really a need of just help. Everyone needed help, and neighboring states were coming into Florida to help. And that kind of EMAC agreement is what we call it, flourished after that. And so far, since its development, MEMA has helped over 20 states in their response efforts. Most recently with the wildfires in California, we had people go out there to help with search and rescue or firefighting teams. And MEMA comes into play in regards to, again, the logistical arm that orchestrates all of these different entities and making sure that everything is organized and all of these different organizations and state agencies are able to go and help as needed.
Oh, Kelly, thank you so much. And then we're going to turn to our next speaker, Jim Pollard, and then at the end we will have an opportunity for additional questions. Jim is the Public Affairs Manager at AMR Central Mississippi, and he said when he got on the call that we needed a big fanfare, so everybody applaud silently at your phone to welcome Jim. Jim? Don't forget to star 6 yourself. Jim? And if you're on mute, you may need to unmute your own phone as well as star 6. Jim? All right, while we're waiting on him, are there any other questions for Kelly? I didn't mean to sort of monopolize everything, but there were some things that I knew that everyone would be interested in. So if you have a question for Kelly, wait, hello? Jim? If you have a question for Kelly, please star 6 yourself and go ahead and ask it.
Good morning. Hello, good morning. This is Greta Winters. And I had a question for Kelly.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. I just wanted to inquire. My local church is attempting to get, re-licensed or re-evaluated as far as being an emergency shelter. And we have been reaching out to Red Cross in regards to possibly scheduling some future training for some of our members to actually be helpers or have different positions within the shelter. So I was trying to inquire, do you know of anyone who actually does that, or is MEMA an agency that possibly we can reach out to that can get us that training? We have had the training in the past through Red Cross, but unfortunately we haven't been able to secure someone within that agency that can come and give us that training.
Yes, absolutely. So our Office of Preparedness, I'm not sure if they specialize in that exact training, but nonetheless, I can give you the contact for our Office of Preparedness Director. And if we at MEMA don't have any sort of training in regards to that specifically, I know Miss Loretta will be able to point you in the right direction and make sure some way that you get that training that you need.
Okay.
So her name is Loretta Thorpe.
Okay.
And if you go to our website, it is msema.org. And there is a contact tab at the top right.
Okay, I'll check out your website and try to get in touch with Miss Loretta.
Yes, and her number is on there as well as her email.
All right, thank you so very much.
You're welcome.
Jim, did you happen to join us? Jim, remember, star 6 yourself, unmute. All right. Are there any other questions for Kelly? Okay. Well, a new feature of our call is, everyone or most of you are familiar with Sharon Nettles, and Sharon has transitioned, although she's still part of the partnership family, but she is now part of the Mississippi State Extension Service. And at the end of the call, she was going to give us a little extension overview each time we meet. So, Sharon, why don't you give us a little insight into your new position?
Thank you, Sandra, so much. And still excited to be a part of our biweekly calls, again, in a different role, but still educating and empowering the community. But with the Extended Service, we offer science-based information, hands-on help, educational workshops, and problem-solving experts to all Mississippians. And these resources are no further than your county extension office. There are 82 communities, and we have an extension service in each of those communities. So we encourage you to please reach out to those extension services if you are not familiar with them. I call it one of the best kept secrets in the community, where we have extension agents there to be able to assist you with your many, many needs that you might have. We talk about agriculture, natural resources, community development, family and consumer sciences, as well as 4-H. If you are interested in volunteering, we have the Master Gardener Program, the Mississippi Homemaker Volunteer Program, Master Clothing Volunteers, Master Health Volunteers. And if you have any questions, many years ago, I was with the Extension Service in Hinds County. And the community could just call up, and you can still do that now. Call if you have a question, how to can, food safety questions, any question about your garden, anything that you need to know, please visit the website. You can look it up at extension.msstate.edu. Again, extension.msstate.edu. msstate.edu. I am in your local Yazoo County Extension office. We're across from we're on, our address is 212 East Broadway. We're on the third floor of the county office building across the street from the county supervisor office. You can reach me at 662-746-2453. And again, I'll share my cell number with you, 601-497-9884. If you need a program in the community, I'm learning, getting my feedback wet, excited about just engaging the community with some of the programs that the Extension Service has to offer. Also working with the 4-H youth, again, equipping our youth with valuable information so that they can grow up and contribute to our society, to be a good product of our society. So what we're doing here at the Extension Service, again, is to educate, to empower in various areas. So again, if you need additional information, please reach out to me. Please reach out to your local Extension office if you're in another community. And again, you can check out the website and find out all the information. We have had another.
Sharon.
Yes, ma'am.
Wait, Sharon. It's my understanding that Mr. Pollard is trying to get unmute himself. So, Mr. Pollard, make sure you unmute your phone and then you star stick.
Can you hear me?
I can. Yay! Hello, Mr. Pollard.
Hello.
We're happy to have you on this call.
Yes, well, goodness sake, in IT jargon, there's something called ID10T error. ID10T, some of you may be familiar with it. ID10T. If you look at it, it spells idiot.
Very good. Well, you're on. The time is yours.
There's also an IT jargon expression, PIBCAC. PIBKAC, which means problem is between keyboard and chair. So that's been my experience this morning. For some reason, I just did not catch *6. Well, very good. Thank you for your patience with me. I apologize. And I expect to be uncharacteristically brief. I do want to go on record in full disclosure early on. You all received the flyer with Kelly's lovely photo and then mine a little out of focus at the bottom. I'm not sure how many more of the folks on the call are guilty of the following. That photograph of me is probably 20 years old, and I've evolved into the short, old, fat white guy demographic here at AMR Central Mississippi. Hair is all white now, I can tell you that. But thanks for having me very much. My purpose this morning is essentially to plant a seed of potential partnership between folks on the call and your local ambulance service or fire rescue department in conveying information to the citizenry that can be life-saving. My belief is that folks in emergency medical services, EMS, have over the decades not done a particularly good job of trying to educate folks on preventing, preparing for, and responding properly to various forms of medical and trauma emergencies. And I'm hoping with my remarks this morning that I might plant a seed or water and fertilize existing shoots to bring y'all's network into conversation with your local ambulance service and fire rescue department so as to enhance, elevate, expand the outreach for the public information, public education side of the emergency, medical emergency and trauma emergency community so that more folks are better prepared and know how to respond to an emergency when prevention fails. I want to refer in part to a flyer that I understand that the folks at the partnership office have distributed to everyone. And I also want to say, hey, Kelly, remarkable presentation. In a previous life of mine, I was a public speaking teacher at the college level. You did a remarkable job. You get an A in my class, all right? First, and also let me ask, are there any folks on the phone who have an EMS background? I'm just curious.
Remember to
I didn't hear any.
yourself.
Pardon me?
I was saying if somebody wanted to reply, they needed to star 6.
Well, I'm not hearing a response, so let me go on. Emergencies, medical and trauma emergencies, trauma, of course, meaning major injury. Often the last thing that most folks in the community think about, there's the other guy syndrome that, you know, a serious car crash, a stroke, a heart attack are going to happen to somebody else. Well, that's what the other guy was thinking as well. And I think we have to break through that inertia that I believe exists among a substantial percentage of the population, much as MEMA makes a wonderful effort to elevate folks' awareness of the risk, the threat that various forms of emergencies pose to all of us, and then to get ready for them and know how to respond. My focus is more on the individual or the individual family, the individual person or the household level of emergency as we go through this time together. First of all, let's talk a bit about the scope of the prevalence of the kinds of hazards that we're talking about here. Many of you, I'm sure, probably all of you, know that certain kinds of medical emergencies are the leading killer of not just Mississippians, but folks all across the United States. Heart attack being the #1 killer. Heart disease in general is often mentioned, but it's not frequently noted that sudden heart crisis is among the various forms of heart disease or manifestations of heart disease, the #1 killer. And then, of course, stroke is about #3 as the cause of death in the U.S. And trauma, serious injury, is #1, the top killer for folks from early childhood to about age 44. And there's only one age group that actually has an increasing death rate, and that's 16 to 24-year-olds, folks when they start to get their driver's license, get more independence in their prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that controls judgment, is not yet fully developed. They make often fatal mistakes. Yes, there are certain groups that are at greater risk of death or disability from medical emergencies or trauma emergencies, teens I just mentioned, little kids, even from infancy on up, obviously well into the toddler stage. Elders are at greater risk, and as the baby boomers like me get older, we're going to see more and more hip fractures and head injuries from falling, which can be a devastating injury, particularly for an older individual. And then where you live also makes a difference in terms of the level of risk that you face from death or disability from medical or trauma emergency, folks living in rural areas being at higher risk. So there is a pressing need, in my view, and in the view of the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and other agencies that are highly involved in emergency medical services system development. There is a pressing need to better educate folks on how they can help their ambulance service or their fire rescue department help them, how folks can help us, speaking as a paramedic, how folks can help us, their EMS responders, help them to give the patient the best chance of survival with the least disability. That's our mission. So we talked a bit about the problem. Medical emergencies, trauma emergencies are indeed a massive and serious threat to our common dream to live long, happy, prosperous, and of course that means in large part healthy lives. And we also noted that, in my view at least, and in the view of some of my colleagues, we need to be doing more, including the establishment of coalitions between ambulance services and organizations such as the Partnership to elevate folks' understanding of this simple fact that everybody is a member of the EMS team. Everybody has a role to play. Now, at AMR Central Mississippi, we have two concepts that we espouse here that I'd like to share, one of which is what we call the ideal EMS citizen. And that's somebody who has all the knowledge, skills, and attitudes that we want folks in the community to have in order to help us do our best work for them when they need us and call 911. The ideal EMS citizen, if we had a magic wand and could wave it over the whole population, what would the ideal EMS citizen know, be able to do, and what would be his or her perspective on their EMS providers and the EMS system? Most folks have no idea what an EMS system is, and their role in giving victims of medical and trauma emergencies a fighting chance at survival with the least disability. So we base our community outreach program here, our efforts to educate folks, to enlist them as part of the EMS team. We rely on these two concepts, the ideal EMS citizen who practices what we call the 5 steps to survive emergencies. The ideal EMS citizen has made these 5 steps to survive medical emergencies second nature. And let's look at these real quickly. And as we do that, I want you to ask yourselves, is there any way that my organization, the outfit that you're with right now, that you represent, is there a way for us to team up or perhaps work solo to disseminate this kind of advice to the citizenry through news releases, radio talk shows? We do a great many radio talk shows here at AMR Central Mississippi, distributing specific information such as this flyer, which you can localize with your logo, take ours off. It's not copywritten from AMR. And at health fairs and other locations with live audiences, what can you put online with your respective websites, for example, that conveys this kind of information? Again, we want to elevate John Q. Public and Jane Doe's knowledge, skills, and attitudes regarding emergency medical services to instill gradually to as many folks as we can. It's a long-term effort, the knowledge, skills, and attitudes that the ideal EMS citizen has. So the first set of knowledge, skills, and attitudes, the first bundle or block, what we call the first step to survive medical emergencies, is pretty obvious. As you can see in the flyer here, work with your local EMS providers to prevent emergencies, and of course means living a healthy lifestyle, using safety equipment, preventing access, particularly by children, to dangerous substances and objects in the home, medications and guns, for example, making sure that your home is safe from fires, or at a minimum, make sure you have a working smoke detector and check it as you're supposed to, working smoke detector and carbon monoxide detector, and also reduce the odds of serious falls, injuries from falling in the home. And there are so many other ways that folks can work with us to prevent emergencies, but we touch on those examples of how folks can work with us to prevent emergencies. Folks simply, in my experience, do not take seriously enough the need to keep their heads on straight when it comes to various kinds of risky activities, such as fireworks or working outdoors in the summer heat when you're not really prepared for it. Step 2 for surviving medical emergencies recognizes that prevention will fail sometimes, so you need to have posted in advance certain vital information that you and your rescuers are going to need instantly. And that includes making sure that your mailbox address or your house number are easy to read from the street by day or by night. Awfully easy to overlook, even in this day of GPS. For ambulance crews to have visual confirmation with a well-marked mailbox or an easy-to-spot house number is absolutely essential to saving precious seconds in responding to the assigned destination. That has been an issue. I've been in EMS going on, the ambulance service, medical transport industry for going on 43 years, and that problem of not having adequate mailbox addresses and house numbers existed when I came into the field and exists to this day, and is still an issue even with GPS. So you can see some other ways there concerning the posting in advance of an emergency, the vital information that you and the rescuers are going to need when prevention fails. Step 3, how to call for help properly. Most folks have never called 911, thank goodness. Most folks have no idea what to expect when they call 911. And again, I want you to consider, as we talk about these 5 steps to survive medical emergencies, can you visualize yourself going on a talk show or being on a live panel somewhere at a church, a school, a civic club, with representatives of your local ambulance service or fire rescue department, sharing this kind of absolutely critical information? Step 3, call for help properly then. You need to know the warning signs of a heart attack and other kinds of emergencies so that you know, can't wait, you got to call immediately, make the first call 911. Sometimes ambulance crews respond to a home and everybody else has been called and is already on the scene. Often it turns out to be, in my experience, the oldest daughter who still lives in the community, who's doing triple duty, taking care of her own family, has her own job, and she's taking care of her elderly parents. But it's crucial to recognize what constitutes an emergency: difficulty breathing, change in consciousness, chest pain, signs that we in healthcare really pretty much it's part of our DNA that we recognize those signs, but most folks, a great many folks, simply are not attuned to the way we see the world. So we want folks, when they call, to know that they're going to be asked several questions. Sometimes folks think that the questions are slowing down the ambulance. That's not the case. The ambulance has already been dispatched in most locations in the state. And the call taker at the ambulance service, a lot of people do not know, is really the true first responder, because they are certified to coach the caller on what to do and what not to do for the patient until the ambulance arrives. Our emergency medical dispatchers, it's actually a level of certification, are trained to coach folks through providing hands-only CPR, even if the caller's never had a CPR course. Our emergency medical dispatchers deliver babies on the phone, helping dad assist mom with an unexpected birth away from the hospital. So you got to follow the dispatcher's instructions. Don't hang up until the dispatcher advises you to. Make sure you teach the children in the family how to use 911 as well. They may have to call for adults in the family. Step 4 for surviving medical emergencies. Again, we're talking about the knowledge, skills, and attitudes that we wish everybody had. This fourth step is learn some life-saving skills. Pretty obvious where we'll head here, learning CPR and first aid. Ambulance services across the state often provide CPR courses and first aid courses as well. And we need to remind folks not to move patients unless they're in immediate further danger, such as in a car that's beginning to smoke from under the hood, for example. Folks need to know, even if they don't take a full-fledged first aid course, how to stop bad bleeding and other specific skills, which takes us to step 5 for surviving medical emergencies. And that's this gets in more into the attitudinal perspective that we would like all citizens to have, to be supportive of their local first responders, pulling to the right to let emergency vehicles pass. That too has been a problem since I entered the field some 43 years ago and remains to this day. And remember, cars nowadays are sold based on how quiet they are. We need to urge people to remain alert for emergency vehicles, to remember that emergency vehicles sometimes travel in 2s or 3s, and to be careful when if they do pull over to the right, or actually perhaps on a 2-lane road, get off the road altogether to let emergency vehicles pass. It's important to be very careful when you come back into the flow of traffic, because there is documented research on what's called wake, W-A-K-E, wake crashes that happen after the emergency vehicles have moved on. As the folks who pulled over get back into the flow of traffic, they have crashes. It does happen. So these are some of the signs, some of the steps, crucial information that we would like for lots of different healthcare agencies to help their EMS providers disseminate throughout the community. Again, news releases, talk shows, live appearances, website postings, Facebook postings, and so on. So I'd like for you, as I said at the beginning of my remarks, to consider if you believe that disseminating this kind of information should be part of your community outreach. I'd like for you to consider approaching your local ambulance service and trying to team up with them to get this crucial information out and continuously repeated. AMR serves, AMR not always under the brand AMR, serves about 19 counties in the state. And if you want to find out who reach with any of those 19 counties, you can go to our website, amr.net, and you can find some contact information there. Or just call me at 601-942-3518. My number is on the flyer. So I'm going to shut up now, and if anyone has any questions in the last minute or so that's left, I'll be glad to field them.
Oh, thank you so much for that great presentation, and thanks to Kelly as well. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Pollard? That was fantastic information. I learned a lot. Go ahead. If you've got a question, don't forget to *6 yourself. All right, hearing none, that information will be available on the website. The partnership website. He's given you his contact information. And remember, you can re-listen to this podcast at the end of the day. It will be in those various sites, the Facebook mobile app or the Power Hour, and on the partnership website. So Sharon, you want to close us out?
I can. I just want to thank, we have had another awesome, terrific Power Hour, Partnership Power Hour. We thank you all so much, so many community partners for joining us out. Our time has been well spent, but if we have any community announcements, please *6 yourself at this time and share with the community partners that are on the line. if we have no more community announcements, again, thank you, Ms. Richardson, for that wonderful presentation about the services that you all provide. We thank you all so much for what you do, not only for the state of Mississippi, but for other states that have an emergency. And I learned so much from you about the drone. That was absolutely amazing. And it's just glad that service is there so that individuals can get the help that they need at a faster rate. So we thank you for what your organization is doing. Kelly, do you have a number or an office that they can reach out to if they need additional information? I know you said visit your website at msema.org, but is there a contact number or do they need to just go to the website?
So I can give you all my office number, and that is 601-933-6373.
Thank you so much, Kelly. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Yeah, Mr. Pollard. Yes, ma'am, Ms. Winters.
Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt. I apologize. I just wanted to make a brief community announcement when you guys finish.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Pollard, thank you so much for that information. And I'm just going to recap his steps, his 5 steps to survive the medical emergency. Living healthy, again, doing the things that we can do to ensure that we are safe at home. Sometimes when prevention fails, some of the things that we need to do, making sure our address is visible so that they can find us. And one thing you said that stood out, these seconds are precious seconds, and we need each one of those in a time of emergency. Again, number 3, how to call for help properly. Again, identifying what's going on in the situation and being able to articulate the information to the provider. Learning some life-saving skills, encouraging everyone to take CPR or first aid, and then being supportive of the services. When we hear the ambulance or we hear the fire department or whomever is coming, when we hear those emergency lights, please, you all, please pull over. Because, again, we would want individuals to pull over for us if our loved ones were in that situation or if we were in that situation ourselves. So thank you both for a great presentation. Ms. Winters, please, at this time, share your community announcement.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Sharon. And I really enjoyed the call today. So thank you guys for your great presentations. I just want to make mention, I know a lot of people probably have heard of a program or project that's currently in the state of Mississippi, which is Project COVID. And we are attempting to assist the community in getting vaccinated. G.A. Carmichael is the clinic that actually is one of the sponsors of this particular project in the Yazoo County and Yazoo City area. They are offering anyone who has not been vaccinated a $50 Visa gift card for the first shot, second shot, and then the booster. They also have vaccines available for children, the Pfizer vaccine from 5-year-olds to, I believe it was 16-year-olds. So we want to really stress to the public to work with us, and our main goal is to get people vaccinated and to keep our children safe by getting them vaccinated. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Winters. And again, we could not do these calls without our community partners. We thank each one of you for taking the time out of your schedule for joining the call. As Sandra said earlier on in the call, if you have an idea, what we're trying to do now is plan ahead these calls, have them all centered around one theme. If you have an idea, please don't hesitate to reach out to myself or Sandra. You can reach her at the Partnership for a Healthy Mississippi at 601-420-2414, or you can reach me at the Yazoo County Extension Office at 662-746-2453. And if you want to reach the partnership's website, you can reach them at healthy-miss, and that's miss.org. And again, we thank you. We have had another awesome Partnership Power Hour. We hope that you all have an awesome week and hope you will be joining us in 2 weeks. Again, thank you and enjoy the rest of your day.
You're welcome. Thank you. Goodbye.